Stop everything for a moment and pay attention, because something in the unseen realm has just shifted in your favor. This is not a coincidence, and it's not a feeling. It's a divine realignment with your name engraved on it. The battles that once encircled you, the waters that threatened to overtake you, the tides that roared with intimidation, they have now turned back at the sound of my voice. I did not ask permission to intervene. I commanded the current to reverse, and it obeyed me. You're not floating in danger anymore, child. You're being carried in a flow of victory that I initiated just for you. This isn't a slow drift. It's a sudden push. I didn't wait for your strength to catch up. I moved ahead of your capacity and caused the flood that once tried to bury you to become the very wave that lifts you. I'm not done yet. I'm just beginning to gather every force that resisted you and repurpose it into fuel for your breakthrough. You don't need to swim anymore. You just need to stay surrendered. The direction has changed. Where panic once ruled your nights, peace is taking over. Where you felt like drowning in the weight of delay, now you will breathe in the momentum of fulfillment. I want you to know this urgently, not next week, not tomorrow, but now. You are not going under. You are not stuck in the storm. You are rising on it. Because I, the one who commands every wind and wave, have redirected the chaos to become your carrier. I'm leading you toward a dawning moment of victory that you didn't even have the energy to hope for. But it's happening, child, and it starts the moment you believe this tide has turned. Don't just stare at the water that moved, walk through it now. This isn't the time to hesitate at the edge. This is your invitation to walk through the space fear used to occupy. I have cleared the way, and every step you take forward now is upon foundations I designed long before your trials began. This isn't borrowed ground. This isn't luck. This is holy territory, handcrafted by my promises and laid beneath your weary feet. The trembling that you feel is not doubt. It's the weight of glory you're stepping into. I didn't part this path just to show you something impressive. I parted it to lead you somewhere essential. Every lie you believed about your future being lost is now swallowed by the very sea that tried to keep you back. Let your foot meet this new ground with faith. The land beneath you will not collapse. It is held up by covenant, not by circumstance. I etched promises into this path with my own hand, promises that will not break under pressure. Take the next step. You don't need to understand the full destination. You just need to know this path was parted for you. I urge you, don't waste time standing in awe when the miracle is already waiting on the other side. The urgency of this moment is not about panic, it's about purpose. You are meant to move now. Heaven is watching to confirm every step you take as a response to what I've just done for you. The time to question is over. The time to move has arrived. With each step, fear recedes further. With each step, trust grows deeper. With each step, my promises are no longer just whispered words. They become the very foundation beneath your breakthrough. Look beneath your steps now, because what once seemed barren is not only shifting, it's beginning to sprout with undeniable evidence. Yes, even the places you considered beyond hope, the areas you tried to forget because they brought too much ache, those are exactly where I've planted restoration. And not just any restoration, but something custom-shaped for your soul's healing. I didn't scatter random answers. I sowed deliberate solutions, ones that match the tears you cried in silence and the petitions you buried inside your heart, thinking no one would ever notice. You may have whispered prayers in exhaustion, even in confusion, unsure whether they would reach me, but they did. Every syllable came up to my throne like incense, and now you are witnessing the first fragile but powerful sign that the waiting was never empty. That green shoot rising now is sacred. It's not just a sign of change, it is change. It's the visible evidence that your waiting room has become a birthing ground. I need you to guard it, not with fear but with awareness. This moment is fragile, but it is not weak. What you see beginning to grow carries encoded inside it your next season's abundance. Don't mistake its small for insignificance. Many overlook beginnings because they don't shout. but I do my greatest works in quiet emergence. I'm calling your attention to this sprouting seed because it holds the key to a chain reaction of restoration, not just for you, but for generations coming through your legacy. Don't trample over it by trying to rush. Don't ignore it by dismissing its size. I'm urging you to see that this is my response, beginning to break through the surface of your reality. The earth did not create this, I did. You did not manufacture this moment. I have. And if I caused a seed to break its shell now, after all this time, then understand, nothing you suffered was wasted. Nothing you've endured will be left barren. Every tear, every question, every delay is now being transformed into the nutrients that support this growth. They'll dig up and doubt what I've just started in faith. Watch it. Water it. Speak life over it. Because soon, that small green proof will become a garden that tells the whole world what I can do with someone who dared to believe, even when nothing made sense. This isn't just hope anymore. This is harvest. Now that my work has begun to surface, those who once watched you suffer with smugness in their eyes are beginning to realize they miscalculated. They mocked your pauses. They laughed at your waiting. They mistook your silence as defeat. But they never factored in my timing. I didn't defend you with public statements because I wanted your vindication to be undeniable, and now it's starting. I never needed to argue on your behalf when I had a better plan, to make your very life the evidence. The ones who labeled you as finished are about to witness your unfolding, and it will silence every whisper of judgment. Your voices once sounded so loud in your mind, didn't they? But hear me. I am shattering the impact of every word they spoke. Their declarations of your failure are evaporating in the presence of your unfolding testimony. The same mouths that cursed your name will now fall into stunned silence, not because you sought revenge, but because I'm defending you in a way only I can. You won't need to lift a finger in retaliation. You won't even need to aggress their words. The fruit I'm about to bring forth from your obedience will answer every insult louder than any argument ever could. And the ground beneath those who ridiculed you is now unstable, not because you wished it upon them, but because pride cannot stand when truth rises. I am asking you not to focus on them, but to lift your eyes higher. Watch how I transform the narrative. Watch how I reverse the verdict. This moment is not about vengeance. It is about victory. I'm showing you that your delay was not denial. It was divine timing. And now, that timing is speaking for itself. Stay humble, child, because I'm not just removing mockers, I'm also elevating you in their presence. And the elevation I bring is never about crushing others. It's about displaying my glory through your faithfulness. Let their taunts fade like mist. Let them melt away like breath on frozen glass. What's coming next will leave no space for their noise. All you need to do is keep walking. I've already silenced the crowd. Hear this urgently. Chosen heart, there is a new resonance thundering across the unseen realm, and it carries your name like a triumphant refrain. It is my voice, not a whisper, but a clarion blast, shaking loose the last remnants of disappointment and ushering you into synchronized momentum. What looked like stalled moments, as though everything around you had been locked beneath a perpetual pause button, were never glitches in destiny. They were carefully measured rests inside the greater symphony I have orchestrated. Pauses where the ensemble inhales so the next movement explodes with incomparable power. Every unanswered petition, every night you stared at the ceiling wondering why hours felt stubborn, has been woven into a rhythm so precise that the beating of your own pulse will soon sense fulfillment marching toward you without hesitation. I have recalibrated the seconds and minutes on heaven's metronome, and while earthly clock towers still toll ordinary hours, a hidden gear has shifted, accelerating seasons that once dragged, transforming pauses into corridors of immediate breakthrough. Do not be startled when opportunities arrive clustered like meteor showers across a moonless sky. They are scheduled by my hand, landing in swift succession so that not a fragment of your endurance is wasted, because I refuse to let even a grain of faith expire unused. Feel the vibration under your feet, an unmistakable hum of holy anticipation declaring that the ledger of delays now bears the crimson seal redeemed, converting every setback into expanded capacity for blessing. multiply past the arithmetic of human logic. Cooperate with this tempo. Stop measuring progress by obsolete schedules. Stop comparing your journey to timelines that belong to someone else. Elevate your gaze to the celestial chronograph where my Father scripts moments with flawless insight, ensuring arrivals coincide with maximum glory. The heavens are releasing a trumpet over your life, a rallying cry summoning angels to deliver parcels of provision, revelation, and alliance exactly when your hands are positioned to steward them, never earlier to tempt waste nor later to invite discouragement. Because I inhabit eternity, I can compress what would normally demand decades into the span of a single obedient breath, and that is what unfolds now. Years of intercession are converging into a near-instant cascade of manifestation, torrents racing down a mountain after a frozen winter thaw. Refuse, therefore, to drag yesterday's hesitation into this accelerated present. Shake off caution masquerading as prudence. Lean into the gale of promise, and let me teach you to dance to a tempo that seems reckless to onlookers yet is precision choreography. Remember, I never improvise out of panic. I compose from mastery, and because I author both sunrise and sunset, nothing erupts prematurely or fades too soon. It flowers precisely when its fragrance will heal the widest circle of wounded souls around you. So tighten the straps of expectation. Trim the wick of hope until its flame burns pure, and keep your inner ear attuned, because the next beat is already surging toward you. I will continue sounding this victorious rhythm until your surroundings resound with the same relentless jubilation, and even then the cadence will surge onward, drawing you into the next swell of grace that waits just beyond this sentence, because the song is still ascending. Feel the invisible gear shift, beloved, for the eternal chronometer has pivoted from pending to delivered in a single, silent click that reverberates louder than any shout on earth. I, the architect of time, have tilted the scales, archiving every instance of delay to clear heaven's dashboard for a new objective stamped unmistakably with your identity. Even now, messengers clad in brilliance are sprinting through radiant corridors, carrying scrolls etched with your breakthrough. Seals split open as they near the registry where accomplished hopes burn like living flame. Picture not whimsical cherubs but disciplined battalions moving with the rigor of veteran commanders, darting between pulses of celestial energy so nothing, absolutely nothing, can intercept what bears your name. Each pinion of their wings sparkles with completed assignments, and as they streak across luminescent skies they collect every lingering fragment of promise, stitching them into a banner of completion destined to unfurl over your circumstances. My decree preceded them, rewriting ledgers once dominated by red columns of not yet, transforming each entry into emerald affirmation. The atmosphere surrounding you already vibrates, aware that cosmic paperwork has been finalized. Anticipate natural confirmations, sudden calls, doors that swing open unannounced, hushed conversations veering in your favor, entire systems resetting overnight. For what is sealed above insists on physical manifestation below. Creation itself longs to echo my verdict. Resist interpreting this acceleration through yesterday's disappointments. Outdated logic cannot decipher the velocity of favor I've dispatched, and hesitation would only tug against the torrent rushing to raise you. Instead, synchronize expectation, declutter schedules, clear mental shelves, prepare storage for fresh provision, because converging supply lines will seem overwhelming if reservoirs remain unready. Grasp that deliverance is not mere escape, it is strategic relocation, and with every angelic stride the architecture of your destiny gains sharper contour, drawing borders where confusion sprawled unchecked. In this exact heartbeat I counsel vigilance. Align your language with hope, for your vocabulary now functions as guidance beacons. Faith-charged words illuminate coordinates so incoming packages land without error. Banish cynicism, contraband at these gates whose hinges are forged from gratitude and whose locks respond only to confidence that what I initiate I finish. If memories of previous failures clamor for attention, treat them like expired passports, invalid at this checkpoint, incapable of boarding the flight already taxiing toward runways of revelation. I am orchestrating a cascade, not a drizzle. Endorsements from unlikely allies, resources surfacing through unconventional channels, insights blossoming amid routine tasks, each timed in sequence, generating unstoppable momentum. Steady your breathing, plant your stance, and observe. The celestial hand has moved, The dispatch has left the throne, and in one swift sweep your landscape will proclaim that delivered means established, yet this is merely the next crescendo, not the finale. Let courage settle deep. When confirmation emerges, an email stamped approve, a long-standing debt suddenly erased, a medical report miraculously revised, view it not as isolated fortune, but as the opening stanza of an anthem devoted to your turnabout. Channel rising excitement into swift obedience. Draft that proposal. Make the reconciliatory call. Sow generosity. For each responsive action forms a landing pad where subsequent blessings can touch down without turbulence. Remain wide awake, live attentive, as the cascade intensifies, every droplet swelling into a flood, and when dawn breaks you will realize the scenery transformed while you were busy agreeing with grace, and that is precisely how heaven's clock showcases its flawless timing. Stop and hear this surge, beloved, because even as you read, unseen waves of endorsement are racing outward from the place where I engrave your identity in living light, striking barriers that once towered like iron cliffs and cracking them from within. Everything that previously required frantic knocking is responding to a force subtler yet far stronger than any battering ram. My sovereign yes echoing through foundations no human hand can reach. Picture time-worn hinges that groaned under centuries of inertia now shivering as internal pins slide free. They cannot resist the authorization that went out the instant your name ignited on my ledger. Hallways you only visited in imagination, boardrooms, studios, classrooms, parliaments, neighborhoods guarded by gatekeepers feel an invisible vibration rumbling through their corridors, signaling staff and stakeholders to get ready for a guest they did not invite yet must now accommodate. Do not be intimidated when entryways swing wide without formal summons. This phenomenon is not favoritism in the cheap sense of the word, but strategic access calibrated for kingdom impact. I shattered the myth that you must beg for legitimacy. Instead, I embedded legitimacy into your spiritual DNA the moment you said yes to purpose, and now every latch forged in skepticism is recalibrating, compelled to favor you against its previous programming. This movement is urgent. The longer you hesitate, the more momentum dissipates, so walk forward as soon as passage appears, carrying humility in one hand and bold vision in the other. And no need to wonder whether you qualify. My inscription overrides resume gaps, financial shortages, missing credentials. Think of corridors flooding with warm air after a locked greenhouse finally cracks open, dormant seeds sprouting in a single night because the atmosphere aligns. That is what walls are doing around you, adjusting temperature, pressure, and policies to fit the arrival of someone anointed to release life. Yet remember, these corridors are not amusement parks for ego. They are distribution channels where your unique voice, skills, and compassion will pivot systems toward justice and mercy. As thresholds release, keep generosity ready like a master key. It will fit additional locks you have not yet encountered. And when you see unfamiliar names on placards or agendas, do not shrink. Understand that I prepared those contexts long before you knew you needed them. Let curiosity propel you rather than fear. Ask questions, listen sharply, honor protocols, but carry the quiet confidence that the meeting is happening because heaven booked the room. Some rooms will appear ordinary, a coffee shop, a waiting area, a once ignored side office, yet the conversation inside will redirect city blocks, businesses, even nations. Stay sensitive to subtle nudges. A casual remark could mark the turning point for entire families. Meanwhile, I am dispatching confirmation in layers. First the opening door, then the welcome, then the follow-up call. Each stage a fresh chord in this unfolding harmony. Resist the temptation to clutch every opportunity indiscriminately. Discernment remains essential. Favor may glow around multiple options, but peace will settle like a weightless cloak over the one I desire you to pursue. Walk through that portal and find supply stocked ahead of schedule, blueprints, alliances, funding sources, because I hate waste and make provision arrive precisely when faith steps across thresholds. Tell your heart to keep pace, neither lagging in doubt nor sprinting past wisdom, for there are more doors ahead, each keyed to the rhythm of obedience. Do not pause for applause or construct monuments to preliminary victories. This ripple is still expanding, touching cities you have never visited, stirring hearts whose faces you do not yet recognize. All because I etched your name in fire and released favor to do what your striving never could, turn locked chambers into avenues of influence, not someday, but now, and the wave has only begun its course. Now that you've crossed the threshold, don't just look around in awe, step forward and receive what's been waiting in silence for you to open it. There lies a scroll, not of fragile parchment but one that breathes with divine intelligence, stretching as you unroll it to reveal designs too precise to be imagined by man. Every line, every curve, every instruction carved into it pulses with a glow that cannot fade, because it was not inked with earthly substance, it was written in radiant authority, straight from my throne. These are not vague suggestions or inspirational thoughts. These are direct architectural instructions, sacred patterns crafted for your next movement, and they come embedded with supernatural clarity. You see, for every area in your life where you were made to feel unequipped, for every vision that made your heart race but your hands feel empty, for every opportunity that stood tall while you felt small, I now place the full strategy in front of you. I didn't bring you this far to leave you guessing. I'm handing you a divine construction plan. Look closely and you'll see that even the parts you didn't understand, delays, detours, heartbreaks, unanswered seasons, are now appearing on this blueprint as foundation points. I turned even confusion into calculated preparation. Where others saw wasted years, I saw footings being poured. And now, etched in gold, are the corridors of abundance you're meant to walk through, not just for personal increase, but so you can carry out the assignments I've been storing in the chambers of your calling. This is no ordinary scroll, it's alive. As your eyes pass over its divine instructions, new strength will course through your understanding. I'm not just giving you what to do, I'm giving you how to do it. Instructions paired with provision, purpose paired with access. When you hesitated before because you lacked the tools, you will now be stunned by the surplus aligned at every junction. Hidden investors, creative partners, skilled laborers, unexpected allies, all map out in perfect sequence, showing up exactly when you need them. Every line you read will shatter the illusion that you're unworthy or unprepared. I planned for every weakness you feared. I embedded reinforcement into the areas you thought would collapse. Now is the time to build boldly, because what you carry is not a fragile dream, it is a divine commission. And this blueprint is only revealed to those willing to steward legacy, not just pursue gain. That's why I kept it sealed until this exact moment. You had to walk through the refining so your hands wouldn't use it for ego. Now, they're steady enough to handle it with reverence. But take this seriously, what I've placed before you demands movement. Not someday. Not when you feel more ready. Now, start where the scroll begins. Don't skip steps. Each segment is calibrated to unlock the next. You will not be overwhelmed if you follow the sequence. You will not be stranded mid-build if you trust my flow. I've embedded rest stops and joy-filled interruptions along the way so you do not burn out. This won't be accomplished through striving, but through surrendered execution. Keep the scroll close. Revisit it daily. New light will illuminate each time you look again. Some parts you'll understand immediately. Others will unfold gradually, just when you need them. But all of it, every mark, every margin was made for you. No part of this is borrowed. No line is left over from another story. This was designed for your hands, your heart, your timeline, your impact. And the moment you said yes to me, I started writing it. Now the time has come to open it wide. Study it like a lifeline because it is built without fear, knowing heaven has already resourced what earth hasn't even recognized yet. You're not constructing blindly. You're executing destiny. And this scroll is your evidence. Turn every faculty of your being toward this announcement, because invisible caravans loaded with precisely tailored supply are cresting the horizon of your circumstance as we speak, and they carry more than relief or personal scarcity. They bear the spark that will transform your narrative into a conduit of liberation for untold crowds. You once tallied bills, obligations, and unfulfilled dreams with a taste of iron in your throat, wondering whether your life would always orbit around barely enough. Tonight, that orbit shatters. I have summoned storehouses whose gates were welded shut to lesser entreaties, and I commanded them to dispatch cargo specifically calibrated for the hollow corners of your existence. Unique skill sets, creative insights, strategic friendships, unexpected streams of finance, emotional resilience, even physical stamina you thought age had stolen. But understand this critical truth: I never send surplus merely to eclipse personal need. I release overflow to inaugurate movements. The incoming windfall arrives coated with assignments far larger than personal comfort, and its momentum will compel you outward into underserved streets, into weary boardrooms, into digital spaces humming with confusion, where your fresh testimony will unlock possibilities for people who have never dared to hope. The timetable is accelerated. Within moments you will sense the landscape shifting, as if a dam burst upstream and a rushing current now carries you farther than 10 years of striving could have propelled. Answer quickly when invitations emerge, because each door you stride through, yes, even the ones disguised as small triggers, chain reactions in neighborhoods you have not yet visited, classrooms you have never seen, and governments pondering policies that will now bend toward justice because a voice of compassion entered the dialogue. Do not shrink back under the weight of influence. Remember, the same hand that filled your cup with resource also forged your backbone with conviction. I am not elevating you to parade wealth, but to demonstrate what radical generosity looks like when fueled by heaven's engine. Picture fields choking under drought, suddenly drenched by a thunderstorm. That is what your obedience will resemble: parched hearts absorbing hope in torrents simply because you decided to circulate what I entrusted. So organize quickly, draft action plans, delegate wisely, erect guardrails against greed, and keep channels of counsel open with people unafraid to correct you. Stewardship is the only posture that maintains continual flow. And while you mobilize, stay vigilant against voices urging you to hoard. Those whispers smell like scarcity and sound like old trauma, but they hold no authority here. I've redirected the economy of your life from fear-based stockpiling to mercy-driven distribution, and the arithmetic of heaven multiplies what compassion releases. Watch how your simplest yes, supplying groceries to a stranger, funding a literacy project, launching a startup that dignifies marginalized workers, will detonate ripple effects across continents you may never set foot upon. My spirit will choreograph every ripple. A college student in another hemisphere will read an online testimony and choose purpose over despair. A retiree will invest dormant savings into budding entrepreneurs after hearing your story. A policymaker will pivot toward reform because your initiative highlighted forgotten communities. Many of these victories will remain hidden from your earthly sight, yet each is recorded in eternal archives that never misplace even one act of kindness. Therefore, breathe deep, square your shoulders, and march into this season of abundant mission. Let former anxieties dissolve like morning mist. They have no role in rooms where new destinies are drafted. I have replaced your nighttime tally of deficits with blueprints for distribution hubs, scholarship funds, rescue homes, inventive technologies that heal the planet, and artistic endeavors that make souls sing again. As you step forward, you will feel strength surge where exhaustion once lived, because purpose is the greatest infusion of energy I allow my children to taste. Keep moving, beloved. Every hour counts, and entire populations are poised to experience freedom, because you refuse to interpret blessing as a private trophy and chose instead to wield it as a baton in this relay of redemption that neither concludes nor slows until the final exile comes home. Pause whatever is in your hand right this instant and lean in, because the atmosphere around you is about to thin like the air at dawn just before a rocket ignites, and you need to be ready for rapid ascent. Each affirmative response you whisper to my prompting, whether it is a private nod of the heart or a bold declaration, before skeptical ears releases invisible updrafts engineered to counteract every downward force that once kept you circling the same low altitudes of regret. Picture a fledgling eagle discovering that the same currents threatening to hurl it against jagged stone can, when partnered with spread wings, become the power that elevates it above the highest peaks. That is what is happening in and around you. My spirit is repurposing adverse dynamics, memories of failure, stories of abandonment, even the internal dialogue that once insisted you were disqualified, and transforming them into thermals of propulsion. The instant you agree with me, the physics of the kingdom override the logic of liability, and you begin to feel pull replaced by buoyancy. Notice how the weight of yesterday's compromise suddenly feels lighter, as if old chains have converted into helium. That sensation is not imagination. It is a measurable shift in spiritual density, the byproduct of aligning your will with eternal momentum. Keep responding quickly, because obedience functions much like rhythmic wing beats. Stalling between beats robs you of lift, whereas consistent cadence carries you into rarefied realms where ordinary frameworks cannot sustain themselves. Expect new perspectives. From a higher vantage, choices once tangled in confusion will sort themselves into obvious pathways, and apparent obstacles will reveal loopholes carved by grace. Refuse to gaze backward at the valley floor. Nostalgia for familiar captivity masquerades as comfort but offers no true refuge. Instead, fix your focus on the expanding horizon where assignments glimmer like distant constellations, each one waiting for you to chart a course. Equip yourself with humility's oxygen mask, for pride cannot breathe at these elevations. Simultaneously fasten gratitude like a stabilizer bar, ensuring turbulence of unexpected favor does not spin you into disorientation. And remember, velocity amplifies voice. As you climb, your testimony will travel farther than ever, echoing across social platforms, coffee shop conversations, whispered phone calls, courtroom deliberations, shaking loose hope in listeners who presumed they had none. You not hoard airtime for self-congratulation. Use it to broadcast truth about the aeronaut who masterminded your lift. Meanwhile, I am positioning aero refueling points, moments of worship, revelation, and wise counsel so your forward motion never stalls for want of strength. Should crosswinds of criticism attempt to buffet you, shift your wings into the slipstream of peace. Turbulence cannot endure where serenity governs. Keep your ears tuned for my directives, transmitted like coordinates through joy, conviction, and unanticipated opportunities. Execute promptly when I say shift altitude, bank left, or hover temporarily. Such micro-adjustments protect you from storms forming outside your line of sight. You will sense a fresh exhilaration, the kind that makes even physical fatigue feel momentary, because purpose-infused obedience triggers biochemical responses within your body, endorphins of destiny, an adrenaline of assurance that earthly vocabulary can scarcely define. Carry a notebook, literal or digital, to jot immediate strategies delivered mid-flight. These insights will outline ventures, songs, policies, and inventions designed to rescue individuals still trudging through valleys you just left behind. And take heart. Every yes spoken today compounds lift for tomorrow, enabling you to ferry others upward in ways you can barely imagine tonight. The climb is accelerating, beloved. The horizon is already widening, and higher thermals wait just beyond this breath. Keep flexing those wings. Keep echoing my yes. Keep rising. Keep soaring, because what once seemed clouded by confusion is now parting to expose a stunning reality. There are connections, long fractured and seemingly forgotten, that I have been actively mending behind the veil of time. From this new altitude, you will begin to perceive something sacred, a bridge, radiant and unshakable, extending across distances once filled with bitterness, silence, and misunderstanding. This is no illusion. It is the result of my handiwork, a path formed not of mere sentiment but of supernatural precision. You couldn't build this bridge through human effort. It required divine alignment, and now that you've responded with obedience, the framework is complete. I am returning what was stolen not simply as it was, but renewed, refined, and redefined. Relationships that were torn by betrayal, crushed by disappointment, or drowned by miscommunication are not beyond repair. I did not allow them to collapse permanently. I allowed distance to grow so healing could begin in the hidden places where pride and pain had rooted too deeply. And now, in this very moment, a reconnection is on the agenda, not to reopen wounds, but to fulfill the original purpose of those ties. You will be surprised how the people you thought were chapters closed long ago are reappearing as pages rewritten. But you must approach this bridge not with a heart of blame, but with a spirit of humility, knowing that I have done a work in them as I've done a work in you. You are not the same person who was wounded, and they are not the same individual who walked away. Do not expect it to look like before. It won't, and that's the miracle. The restoration I bring does not simply tape together broken pieces. It creates something stronger from the ashes of what was. I have touched their hearts in quiet hours, whispered to them in dreams, convicted them in moments they never spoke of to anyone. Just as I've been preparing your spirit to forgive and extend grace, I've been cultivating in them a readiness to receive it. Prepare yourself. You may hear apologies you never thought you'd receive. You may receive messages filled with clarity, vulnerability, and truth. And in some cases, you will be the one I ask to send the first word, not to reopen pain, but to release blessing. Understand, child, that the bridge isn't just for comfort, it's for kingdom collaboration. There are assignments waiting on the other side of these reconciliations, missions that were paused until healing came. Don't miss this. I am not simply giving you back people. I am restoring purpose through people. You'll find teammates where you once found tension. You'll find intercessors where you once found accusers. You'll find covenant where you once found conflict. Let go of the need to rehearse the past. Instead, focus on responding rightly in the present. Guard your mouth with mercy. Protect your heart with discernment. Move with wisdom, but don't move with walls. As you cross this illuminated bridge, watch how walls dissolve into doorways and how old tensions birth new trust. There will be tears not of sorrow, but of holy release. There will be long pauses pregnant with healing, heavy with unspoken acknowledgments that both sides finally feel. Let it flow. Let it flow. Let me finish what I started. And when you do, you will witness not just relationships restored, but destiny realigned. This is more than reunion, it is reformation. You were not meant to walk alone forever. The higher I lift you, the more I reveal who was always meant to walk beside you, but only after I shaped you both in the secret place. So keep flying. Keep listening. The bridge has already been laid, and before you even land, reconciliation is rising to meet your feet. Listen sharply, this next motion is immediate, like a surge of warm water flushing through icy veins, and it concerns the buried moments you have tiptoed around for years, the recollections that once triggered a flinch whenever your mind brushed against them. I have just swung open an inner chamber you didn't know existed, a hidden archive guarded by thick doors of regret. As the lock clicks, watch silvery light spill across episodes you cataloged as failures, illuminating them with perspective that was absent when the wounds were fresh. See how the stains that once defined those chapters now dissolve beneath a cascade of redemptive brilliance. It is the solvent of my compassion, penetrating every blot of embarrassment until the pages gleam. What remains is not a record of disgrace, but a curated exhibit of endurance, curated so intentionally that each restored scene reads like an inscription of grace blazing across marble walls. I have appointed angels as archivists, polishing these artifacts so visitors, loved ones, strangers, future generations can walk through the gallery of your past and discover hope rather than gossip. Notice how even the darkest corridors echo with music now, because fear that once haunted them has been exiled, replaced by melodies of deliverance that reverberate all the way into your present confidence. You must understand, I refuse to let shame narrate your history. I am rewriting footnotes, adding context, annotating margins, with revelations about how every misstep became material for my masterpiece. Feel the urgency. I am doing this in real time, transforming your internal narrative, while audiences who once doubted you prepare to witness a premiere they never expected, your life shining as proof that no blemish is too stubborn for my restoration. So stand tall when the spotlight swivels. Do not avert your gaze or mumble disclaimers. Lift your chin and let redeemed memories breathe, because vulnerability guided by my spirit becomes a beacon for wanderers still trapped in secrecy. Your testimony will function like a compass, pointing them toward the very vault I opened for you. And be ready, opportunities will arise quickly. Podcasts, coffee conversations, spontaneous prayers in supermarket aisles, spaces where your freshly burnished story will fit like a key into other people's chains. Speak with candor, but never with contempt for who you were. Honor the journey by celebrating how I intervened, refusing to let bitterness cling to the narrative. Meanwhile, I am sending courageous listeners. People who once scoffed will lean forward, eyes glistening, surprised by the gentleness flowing from a place they assumed was still raw. Some will weep, others will quietly rearrange their beliefs about me. Let them. Their tears are irrigation for seeds of change taking root beneath the surface. And know this, each time you recount what I've repaired, the story gains new facets, like a gem turned beneath fresh light, revealing brilliance neither of us displayed before, because timing is everything, and now the clock is striking exposure for glory's sake. Keep pacing yourself. Authenticity is weighty, and I will not let transparency fatigue you. Between engagements I will draw you aside for deep breaths of presence, replenishing courage with rivers of peace. Remember, this unveiling is a chapter, not a conclusion. More vaults await, more treasures to reveal. For now, revel in the freedom of clean pages, in the fragrance of guilt evaporated, and step into the hallway where the next door already stands ajar, glowing with possibility, and we will continue forward together before the ink on this moment even dries. Watch what begins to unfold now, because I have not only cleaned the hidden chambers of your soul, I have turned them into echo chambers for my glory. What once brought isolation will now usher multitudes into belonging. Your words, raw with redemption, will begin to find their way into hearts that have grown calloused from long disappointment and quiet suffering. Some have been walking with spiritual limp for years, never admitting it out loud, but their steps have slowed, their worship has dimmed, and their expectation has withered into routine. Yet when they hear you speak unfiltered, peeled, steady, the impact will be electric. It won't be theatrics or persuasion that moves them. It will be the authority that flows from someone who has truly walked through the storm and emerged not just intact, but transformed. You will be surprised how your seemingly ordinary moments, telling your story in a car ride, mentioning my intervention during a casual exchange, sharing tears over coffee, will become lightning rods of revival in others. Their hearts, once dulled by spiritual fatigue, will awaken like soil after the first spring rain. The ground they thought was too hard to ever grow faith again will start to soften just from your witness. But this is not just individual healing. I am orchestrating a collective surge. The courage ignited in one will jump to another, and soon the atmosphere around you will shift like a wildfire of holy remembrance spreading across dry plains. You won't be the only one testifying anymore. Others will rise. Timid voices will find their sound again. People who once stayed silent will now come forward, trembling but determined to say, "He did it for me too." And what begins as testimony will become harmony, layered voices singing the same anthem of rescue, of mercy, of resurrection. No one will lead it, I will. No one will control it. My spirit will guide it like a wind shaping melodies across mountains. I am forming a choir not of professionals, but of the rescued. Not rehearsed but real. Their voices will not be identical, but that is the beauty of it. Every pitch, every tone, every timbre blending into a sound that hell will tremble to hear. For this is the music of the unashamed. And in that rising sound, your own voice will find new strength. You once sang your breakthrough softly, uncertain if anyone would join in. But now, as these lives respond to your courage, your voice will grow stronger, not because you need approval, but because you realize you're not alone anymore. The very echo of others being set free by what you've shared will fuel your next steps. I never meant for you to carry this alone. The solitude you endured was temporary, necessary for the oil to crush from your pressing, but never meant to last forever. Now, the release has begun, and the oil flows not just through you, but over others. Soon, you'll look around and realize that your private cry has become a public chorus. You'll see strangers walking in freedom you prayed for in secret. You'll hear children repeating declarations you once whispered through tears. You'll feel the atmosphere in churches, homes, hospitals, and street corners change, not from grand productions, but from honest stories and living worship. You're no longer a voice crying in the wilderness, you're part of a prophetic wave rolling through dry bones, causing life to emerge where only ashes remained. Do not hold back, even when it feels overwhelming. I'll guide you in knowing when to speak and when to simply let your presence carry the shift. Some days you will sing. Other days you will just listen. But either way, the harmony will rise, and I will dwell in the sound. Keep moving forward, because even now the next soul is leaning in, ready to find courage in your release, and soon, their voice will join the song that never ends. Feel the shift in the atmosphere right now, subtle yet unstoppable, as the collective melody of liberated voices begins to flow beyond auditoriums, beyond streaming platforms, beyond sanctuary walls, spilling like fragrant oil across thresholds you have prayed over for years. Picture that harmony traveling as invisible waves through corridors once thick with tension, seeping underneath doors locked by stubborn pride, settling over kitchen tables scarred by shouted accusations, lingering in bedrooms where sleepless minds rehearsed worst-case scenarios. With every note carried on this spiritual current, I am subduing hostility without a single human negotiation. The music itself is my instrument, vibrating at frequencies engineered to dismantle resentment and realign emotional climates. Children who tighten shoulders whenever footsteps approached will sense a warmth rising through the floorboards, and their laughter quelled by anxiety will return in spontaneous bursts, signaling that fear's tenancy has been revoked. Spouses who drifted into opposite corners of the house, conversing only through curt necessities, will pause mid-routine as an unexplainable softness presses gently on their hearts, inviting them to remember why covenant mattered in the first place. Even aging parents, whose decades of silent disappointment formed invisible partitions, will detect a nostalgia laced with hope, prompting tentative conversations that uncork long-suppressed affection. Understand, beloved, this is not sentimental background noise. It is a strategic deployment of peace, tuned by my hand to resonate with the precise wounds each household carries. Where criticism once ricocheted off the walls, my cadence now soaks the plaster with calm assurance. Where panic settled like dust on every surface, my chorus sweeps in as a cleansing wind, removing the dense film of dread and leaving behind breathable air clear enough for dreams to exhale again. You will soon receive messages, texts, voicemails, surprise invitations for gatherings that had seemed impossible, siblings agreeing to meet without mediation, uncles ready to apologize for decades-old insults, neighbors eager to share resources rather than grievances. When these reports arrive, recognize their origin. They are the echo of the choir I raised from your testimony, a symphonic answer to prayers you once voiced through tears on the edge of surrender. Do not downplay the miraculous in these everyday reconciliations. Each handshake, each shared meal, each burst of restful sleep is evidence that I am composing healing in real time. Yet this wave is not limited to personal circles. The same harmony will leap city grids, slip into apartment complexes stacked with strangers, glide through office cubicles humming with silent rivalries, and hover over classrooms where tension stifles curiosity. Administrators will notice outbreaks of collaboration that cannot be traced to policy changes. Hospital wings will record unexplained dips in agitation. Correctional facilities will report sudden calm during visitation hours. Because when I conduct, sound obeys, walls obey, spirits obey, and peace, once seated, multiplies without permission from the old caretakers of chaos. Remain attentive. You will sense nudges to reinforce the harmony by speaking blessing aloud in specific spaces: your living room, a coworker's desk, the entrance of a community center. Follow promptly. Your voice, now seasoned by victory, functions like a tuning fork aligning the environment with heaven's key. Keep worship streaming softly where possible, but remember, the true resonance travels within you. Carry it into grocery lines, onto buses, through digital meetings. Let your demeanor become a portable sanctuary that others subconsciously step into. And when you witness conflicts flare, do not panic. Lift an internal hymn, and I will weave its notes into the ongoing score, diffusing volatility before harsh words can detonate. Understand, the ripple has only begun. Successive waves will roll over territories you have never visited, drawn by the gravitational pull of my joy inside you. Therefore, guard that joy fiercely. Protect it from despair's pickpockets and cynicism's thieves, because the melody needs a willing vessel to sustain its journey. Stay yielded, and I will keep amplifying until peace saturates every square meter promised to your stewardship. And even as that work advances, the cadence will already be charting fresh routes, preparing to colonize unrest with tranquility long after this sentence breathes its final syllable. Yet we will continue without pause toward the next measure of grace. Feel the sudden solidity beneath your spirit, a massive citadel of serenity rising around your mind and emotions. Walls forged not from stone but from unwavering confidence in my unbreakable intent. This stronghold is no retreat for the fearful. It is a command post for the courageous, reinforced against every dart of anxiety, yet designed with archways wide enough for incoming favor to stream through unhindered. Picture bronze-rimmed portals standing ajar, lanterns blazing atop watchtowers, heralds calling out updates as convoys of possibility thunder across the plain toward you. Contracts once stalled at distant checkpoints have broken loose and now gallop in a unified surge, their banners snapping in the wind of acceleration. Positions you never applied for, alliances you never imagined, breakthroughs you never budgeted are converging with such velocity that hesitation has no chance to overtake them. Inside these walls, cynicism cannot nest. Its claws find no purchase on the gleaming ramparts of peace that I have tempered in the kiln of your recent obedience. Instead, the courtyard hums with preparation, scribe angels copying fresh assignments onto vellum scrolls, quartermasters laying out resources exactly calibrated for each venture that will cross the threshold. Do not mistake this flurry for chaos. It is orchestrated precision moving at the speed of divine intent. I need you alert, eyes fixed on the horizon, heart steady but expectant, because the order in which these opportunities arrive matters. Some will require immediate acceptance, an unexpected call inviting your expertise, a chance meeting that births a partnership before sunset. Others will linger just long enough for you to gather counsel and strategy, then proceed like arrows released from a well-drawn bow. Discouragement will attempt a last-ditch ambush, whispering that this rush is too good to be true or too heavy to bear, but its footsteps lag far behind the cadence of my provision. By the time doubt reaches the gatehouse, the cargo of promise will already be stored safely, inventoried, and distributed to the projects I have encoded in your destiny. Remain vigilant but not tense. Peace is your atmosphere now, a breathable shield that lets inspiration pass while filtering out dread. Walk the ramparts at dawn and dusk with thanksgiving on your lips. Gratitude is the password that keeps the drawbridges lowered for authentic blessing yet raises them instantly against manipulative schemes. And when night falls, rest without clutching fear of theft. I have stationed sentinels invisible to human sight, warriors whose very presence repels the marauder called regret. Hear their footfalls echoing through moonlit corridors. That rhythm is proof your tomorrow is already defended. Meanwhile, I will continue summoning additional caravans, innovative concepts, healing connections, financial reservoirs, fresh joy. Each arrival will dock seamlessly with the previous one, forming an unbroken supply line that propels you far beyond survival into influential abundance. Receive this with urgency. Do not dally analyzing every detail, for overthinking is a slower horse than opportunity's stallion. Answer swiftly, steward wisely, and remember that this fortress is not meant to isolate you from the world but to empower you to serve it from a position of unshakable inner calm. The drawbridge is down, the path is clear, the first hoofbeats are already drumming on the earth. Step forward and meet them before the echo fades. Stay alert because even now, silhouettes crest the skyline, messengers clasping cylindrical cases wrought from shimmering crystal, each case containing directives tailored to your precise season. The moment they reach you, the casings dissolve, releasing parchment so alive it seems to breathe, unrolling into intricate pathways that sparkle like constellations across midnight velvet. You will notice that every route is calibrated to the pulse you've developed through surrender, neither dragging your momentum nor demanding frantic sprints. Instead, each instruction aligns with the effortless propulsion of heavenly airflow whispering at your heels. One parchment might detail a conversation scheduled at dawn where a single sentence will unlock dormant creativity in someone crucial to your mission. Another might describe a seemingly trivial act of kindness that triggers a chain reaction in an entire community. Resist the urge to compare scrolls. There is no hierarchy here, only synergy. Each assignment is a gear in a beautifully synchronized timepiece, and my spirit is the master horologist setting them in motion exactly when their rotation produces maximum impact. You may marvel at the precision. Contexts you meet moments after reading one scroll will confirm the content of another. Funds released through yesterday's obedience will underwrite tomorrow's leap. Insights gained during a sleepless night will illuminate dilemmas that appear 3 weeks later. Realize this choreography is not random. It is the product of eternal wisdom intersecting temporal necessity. Treat the scrolls with equal reverence and urgency. Read, pause, breathe, and move no second guessing. The wind behind you will feel like gentle acceleration, nudging you through thresholds that would have required sheer effort before now. Still, remain teachable. Some steps will appear counterintuitive, directing you to wait when eagerness swells or to advance when logic counsels caution. Trust that the aerodynamic design of my guidance eliminates drag you cannot see. Keep tools nearby: journal, voice recorder, blank calendar because details will manifest at unconventional hours, and swift documentation safeguards clarity from the erosion of distraction. Each completed directive emits a pulse that signals the next courier to depart, ensuring no backlog forms, no instruction stagnates. Be mindful. Ignoring a single scroll can disrupt the cadence, causing eddies of confusion. Yet fear not. If you falter, repentance realigns the sequence, and fresh wind re-engages your stride. Above all, cultivate gratitude like oxygen. Each time you thank me for a directive, your lungs expand, allowing bigger assignments to flow without suffocating vision. Soon you'll realize you are no longer counting steps, but gliding, borne along by invisible currents, your focus freed to observe miracles sprouting in the wake of your obedience. Scholars will call it foresight, analysts will label it strategy, but you will know the truth. You are simply reading the next line on a scroll delivered in perfect rhythm with the breath of the Almighty. Now take steady steps forward, because the path ahead will no longer demand the anxious calculations you once relied on. I have removed the pressure of premature planning that drained your energy and filled your mind with scenarios of what if. Instead, I am introducing you to my provision cycle, a divine economy that appears precisely when obedience activates alignment. Expect it. You'll find what you need exactly when your foot lands where I instructed, not before to feed your comfort, nor after to test your survival. What descends into your hand may not always look extravagant, but it will be exact. Just like manna in the wilderness, daily, sufficient, nourishing, and sacred, each resource will carry not only utility, but identity. You will recognize my signature on it, evidence that heaven monitored every step of your journey and measured out every provision with microscopic care. This will protect your mission from becoming a marketplace of self-preservation. Gone are the days of hoarding out of fear, of storing up just in case while your heart quietly questioned whether I was paying attention. Now, the rhythm of trust will replace the noise of contingency planning. The backpack you once overstuffed with anxiety will be emptied and replaced with readiness to receive in real time. There will be mornings when unexpected favor drops through a phone call, afternoons when encouragement arrives through someone you barely know, nights when wisdom flows like fresh water onto your exhausted thoughts, turning confusion into strategy. All of it, each piece of supply will be timed by the beat of my faithfulness, not your urgency. Let this truth bring relief. You are not responsible for manufacturing your momentum. You are responsible for walking faithfully. As you do, I will fund what I have formed. And not only will you see supply appear for your needs, you'll begin to carry enough to share. This is the mystery of kingdom provision. It multiplies under movement. Hoarded, it grows stale. Distributed, it expands. So don't be surprised when the portions in your hands stretch further than logic suggests. A single idea will fund a project. A seemingly casual meeting will unlock years of stagnation. A moment of obedience will reverse cycles of poverty and generations you will never meet. I am releasing these things to those who will not idolize them but utilize them, who won't cling to the gift but will carry it toward others. And when others ask how you keep finding enough, you'll smile and point not to your efforts, but to the invisible hand that always places what's needed right on time. You won't scramble anymore. You won't compromise your values for the sake of gain. You'll move freely, confidently, because lack has lost its grip. Scarcity will no longer dictate your pace. The margins, once so loud, will fall silent. The mission, once so far, will now feel present. I'll keep sending it. To prepare him. The miracle is already en route. Now brace yourself, beloved. For what is beginning to rush into view was once placed on hold not because it was impossible, but because the season wasn't ready to carry it. Those visions you placed in dusty folders, the ideas you whispered only to me in moments of fragile hope, the plans that once seemed too bold, too bright, too large to belong to you, I am resurrecting them now, not as fantasy, but as funded reality. I have seen how you scaled back to survive. I watched you tighten your budget not only financially, but emotionally and spiritually, minimizing desire so disappointment would hurt less. But that season of restriction is giving way to a new flow, one where surplus is not just a concept, but a continuous, tangible expression of my delight in your obedience. You will notice this overflow does not demand striving. It emerges naturally as you move in alignment, like streams forming from the excess of saturated ground. Projects once deemed unrealistic will begin to feel within reach. Locations you thought were beyond your sphere will start calling your name. Supplies, permissions, supporters, elements you thought would require decades will arrive in moments, sometimes without formal explanation. Do not mistake this favor for coincidence. It is the manifestation of what I've been storing up while you remained faithful with less. For every time you said not now to personal ambition in order to say yes to me, I stored a reward. Now, I'm releasing it. And it's not just for you. This abundance is multi-layered. It will overflow into community centers, creative ventures, educational programs, healing ministries, and places you haven't even imagined yet. Your cup will be so full that even the saucer beneath you will saturate the ground where others are standing parched. But understand this. The dreams you thought were too extravagant were not yours alone, they were shared blueprints. I whispered them to you not to tease your heart, but to entrust you with heavenly vision that required time to mature. You're not stepping into indulgence, you're stepping into inheritance. I am not blessing ego. I am financing impact. You must shed the old fear that rising means becoming selfish. You must silence the internal voice that says blessing automatically leads to corruption. I am with you. I will hold you accountable. I will preserve your heart even as I enlarge your territory. Let your imagination expand again, but this time under my direction. Reopen the journals, revisit the sketches, dust off the proposals. Begin revising those ideas not in reaction to scarcity, but in response to surplus. Build them not just for survival, but for sustainability and significance. Think long-term now. Plant trees under whose shade your children's children will sit. And when you feel overwhelmed by the sudden weight of all that's becoming possible, pause and remember, I never gave you a dream I wouldn't equip you to fulfill. Yes, it felt like too much then, but that's because you hadn't yet received what I'm now releasing. This is your new rhythm, no longer crouching at the edges, but stretching wide in the center of my provision. Where there was once guesswork, now there will be strategy. Where there was once delay, now there will be movement. Where there was once rationing, now there will be release. Let the surplus speak for itself. It will announce to every doubter, every old limitation, every abandoned version of yourself that you were always chosen for more. Let me take you deeper into the meaning of what I'm doing in this hour, because you must understand this clearly. What I am releasing to you is not luxury for the sake of status, but lavish supply for the sake of multiplied compassion. In my kingdom, excess is never wasted. It is strategically placed to touch needs that extend far beyond your current visibility. And I have chosen you as a vessel for this distribution because you have proven that your heart bends toward giving, not grasping. This new level of abundance I am entrusting you with carries embedded instructions. It is not meant to simply surround you. It is meant to move through you. As you receive, you will be prompted to release. And each release, when done in obedience and not impulse, will unlock another cycle of greater capacity and impact. What you give away won't diminish you, it will position you for increase. What leaves your hand in love returns multiplied not just in volume, but in eternal value. I want you to begin seeing everything in your life through this lens. The home I am bringing into your possession. It's not just for shelter. It will be a sanctuary, a hub of restoration for broken souls. That influence I'm expanding. It's not for applause. It's to open doors for those who have been locked out. That surplus I'm flooding your storehouses with. It's not for display, it's seed, ready to be scattered into territories that have long been barren of hope. Watch what happens when you sow into others without fear. Watch how widows are sustained, how orphans find covering, how visionaries are launched, how communities are healed, how broken systems are shaken because one decided to believe that overflow wasn't meant for comfort alone, but for transformation. The extravagant nature of what I'm doing may make others question you. Some will not understand it. Some will accuse. Others will secretly envy. But don't let their responses alter your posture. You answer to me, and I know why I chose you. You've been in seasons where you gave when you had barely enough. You've prayed for others while carrying your own wounds. You've lifted arms when yours were trembling. That is why I trust you now. This is not about proving anything, it's about fulfilling everything. I will teach you how to manage this wave of resource with discernment, how to identify counterfeit requests from divine assignments. I will sharpen your ability to say yes with generosity and no with grace. You won't be manipulated, because I'll be speaking louder than the noise of need. And where I lead you to pour, miracles will erupt. Places that haven't seen change in generations will bloom because of your obedience to release what the world would have told you to hold tight. But make no mistake, this is only the beginning. The more you trust me with what comes into your hands, the more I will trust you with what's in mine. There is no limit to what I can funnel through someone who refuses to idolize the blessing. Let this be the rhythm. Receive freely, give boldly, rest joyfully, repeat endlessly. The blessing will chase you down not for your vanity, but because you've aligned yourself with my heart. That's what true extravagance looks like in my economy. Love so abundant that it can't help but spill over, touch lives, mend wounds, build futures, and echo into eternity. And as long as you keep your eyes on me, I'll keep the flow coming uninterrupted, undeniable, and unstoppable. Now feel this next wave move gently yet with unmistakable power, pouring not into your hands this time, but deep into your interior, into places you locked away even from your own awareness. These are not the wounds others could see. These are the hidden bruises, the moments you never voiced, the fears you covered with performance, the disappointments you buried beneath "I'm fine." I have never overlooked them. I watched when betrayal pierced your heart and you smiled anyway. I saw when loss swept through your soul like winter wind and you kept walking as though nothing shattered. I listened to the unspoken ache that wrapped itself around your chest at night, the questions you asked only in silence. Why did that happen? Why didn't you stop it? Why does it still hurt? This is that moment, child. The healing you've longed for but didn't know how to ask for is here, not in a flash of noise or emotional outburst, but in a sacred current of mercy now flowing directly to the wounded places. You won't have to relive the pain for it to be undone. You won't need to perform an explanation. I don't require your words to mend what broke. I only need your permission. If you will yield right now, even in a whisper, I'll move into those hidden crevices like warm oil, pressing into the cracked walls of your memory, not to erase them, but to restore them. The memories may remain, but the sting attached to them will not. Where pain once coiled like smoke, clarity will settle. Where grief once pulsed, peace will now reign. You will remember, but you will not relive. I will not just close these wounds, I will seal them in such a way that they cannot be reopened by touch, by trauma, or by time. Not even your own thoughts will have access to cause them to bleed again. That is the difference between man's comfort and my healing. Comfort tries to soothe the pain you still carry, but I extract the pain entirely and replace it with strength that radiates from the very place that was once broken. The same heart that trembled under weight will beat with a new cadence, steady, joyful, unburdened. And there's more. These healed places will not become dormant. They will become fountains. What I mend in you, I multiply through you. Others will be drawn to the peace in your voice without even knowing why. Your presence will shift rooms because you'll carry a stillness they've been craving but couldn't name. When someone shares their sorrow with you, you won't be triggered. You will be able to listen, truly listen, with tenderness and wisdom, because your own pain has been fully met by my presence. Don't fear the return of sadness. Don't brace for relapse. I'm not offering temporary relief, I'm imparting finality. This is the end of the bleeding. This is the closing of the chapter that once drained you. You are stepping into the kind of wholeness that doesn't depend on circumstances staying perfect, because it is rooted in a truth deeper than explanation. I am your healer, and I am not halfway in anything I do. Even as you read these words, the process is already underway. You'll notice it subtly at first: less tension in your thoughts, more stillness in your spirit, unforced smiles, easy breath. Then, over time, you'll realize what once felt heavy now feels like light. What once brought tears now brings clarity. And eventually, you'll meet someone who is in the same pain you once endured, and you will offer something that medicine, time, or talk never gave you: presence soak in the reality of my restoration. Let me finish this work, beloved. You've carried these wounds long enough. Lay them down, and I will wash over them with a flood that does not miss a spot. I will seal every crack, mend every fracture, and leave no scar behind, only stories soaked in hope and sealed in glory. Pause everything and feel the urgency of this commissioning, because I am not simply healing you so you can enjoy private relief. I am establishing you as a landmark glowing in the night for travelers who have forgotten how to navigate my hope. Your restored soul will function like a beacon on a storm-tossed shore, radiating steady signals that cut through fogs of confusion and despair. People you do not yet know, colleagues, passers-by, distant relatives, even strangers scrolling aimlessly through a screen at 3 a.m. will find themselves drawn to the unspoken invitation stitched into your presence. They will sense water before they see it, thirst before they name it, and your life will become the unmistakable arrow directing them to the fountain that quenched you. Do not underestimate the magnitude of that pull. I am calibrating frequencies in your words, gestures, and silence so that spiritually dehydrated hearts will recognize in you the resonance of refreshment. You won't need elaborate presentations. Authenticity forged through restoration will carry more authority than the finest rhetoric. When wanderers arrive, some stumbling, others sprinting, receive them without judgment, remembering how disoriented you once felt. Offer directions, not directions cluttered by jargon, but simple pathways. This is where I found life. Come and drink. And as they drink, you will witness pupils brighten, shoulders lift, voices regain melody. The sight of their renewal will, in turn, reinforce your stance, rooting you deeper in gratitude and sharpening your understanding of why I rescued you at this precise juncture in history. Be prepared. The influx will not be a trickle but a tide. Crowds weary of counterfeit springs, addictions, accolades, empty philosophies will converge, seeking the genuineness that now flows through you. Structure your days accordingly. Carve out margins for listening. Create rhythms of rest so you can pour without depletion. Cultivate partnerships with other signposts I'm raising simultaneously across the landscape so the guidance network is robust and sustainable. And pay attention to subtle nudges. Sometimes I will redirect you a few steps left or right so a wandering soul's line of sight intersects the glow I've placed on you. Celebrate each connection, whether it seems monumental or modest, because every rescued heart ignites another beacon further down the road, multiplying visibility for those still far off. This is how revival spreads through ordinary lives lit by extraordinary grace. Lives like yours. Remain humble, for the brightness emanating from you is borrowed light. It originates from the wellspring itself, reflecting off the surfaces I polished when I healed you. Maintain proximity to that source daily: communion, whispered gratitude, quick obedience so the signal never flickers. Should you feel momentary dimness, return immediately to the fountain. I will replenish brilliance faster than doubt can gather. Remember, signposts do not travel, They stand firm in the assignment of visibility. Your influence will reach distances far beyond your physical movement through testimonies, written words, and digital echoes, but the core of your calling is present, steady, welcoming, unmistakable. Let storms come, lightning only highlights a lighthouse. Let night deepen, stars shine sharper against blackness. And know this: each wanderer who discovers living water because you stood illuminated expands the chorus of redemption resounding through eternity. Remain lit, remain grounded, remain generous, for the next soul is already on the horizon, scanning the dark for exactly what you now embody. Listen closely, because the moment these thirsty souls taste the living freshness you now embody, transformation will crack open landscapes you once assumed were permanent wastelands. See them in your mind, faces lined by years of spiritual dehydration, lips cracked from pleading prayers that never seemed to echo back. As they reach the overflow you carry, a single sip will ignite biological wonder. Eyes widen, shoulders square, breath steadies, and hope that lay dormant springs awake like seeds bursting after a long-awaited rainfall. But the miracle will not stop at the individual. Wherever their revived feet tread, formerly barren ground will quiver, then split, releasing hidden reserves of vitality I locked beneath the dust ages ago. Streets plagued by addiction will discover sober mornings. Classrooms stifled by cynicism will erupt in innovation. Small businesses starved by economic drought will encounter sudden patronage as if rain clouds of favor parked overhead. This domino of rejuvenation is my design, set in motion by a single gesture of compassion, yet destined to ripple outward until entire districts pulse with new possibility. Do not underestimate the speed of this phenomenon. Desert ecosystems can germinate overnight when water finally arrives, and likewise, hearts long written off as hardened will soften instantly under the warmth of genuine encounter. Some will question the authenticity of such rapid greening. Ignore the skeptics, for they have not walked the arid trails these wanderers survive. Others will try to bottle and brand the flow. Guard the purity of the source, pointing them always back to me rather than to any method or personality. Remember, your role is catalyst, not celebrity, midwife, not monarch. Stay low enough to shepherd tender shoots that emerge, mentoring, interceding, celebrating every fragile sprout of progress until roots run deep. I will highlight specific pioneers among the restored who carry unique blueprints for their neighborhoods. Empower them quickly, for their momentum will keep the bloom spreading while you step toward the next frontier. Expect terrain to shift faster than bureaucracies can track. Paperwork will lag behind breakthrough, yet do not fear confusion. I will raise administrators with foresight and integrity to steward expansion responsibly. Keep your ears tuned to subtle instructions. A timely donation here, a strategic introduction there, a prayer walk at dawn through forgotten alleyways. Each obedience releases nutrients into the soil of culture. Meanwhile, former predators' shame, despair, exploitation will find no prey, because life is exploding in every corner they once dominated. Even wildlife of ideas will return. Creativity, laughter, curiosity. Creatures that fled during the drought will repopulate the region, bringing ecological balance to community spirit. And when satellite observers, media, academia, policymakers notice deserts turning emerald, they will investigate, prepare concise testimony that directs glory back to divine orchestration. I will give you language that confounds experts yet comforts children, because this revolution must remain accessible to all. Refuse the temptation to slow grip revival out of fear. It will run out. Scarcity thinking is incompatible with the aquifer I've tapped. Instead, widen channels, dig additional irrigation lines of discipleship and collaboration, confident that reservoirs in my kingdom swell with use, not depletion. Yet hold space for rest. Gardens flourish when caretakers pause under shade, listening to breeze and birds. So schedule rhythms where you simply marvel at blossoms you did not personally plant. Those moments of wonder will recalibrate your motives, protecting humility as influence enlarges. Finally, anticipate next waves. After bloom follows fruit, after fruit follows seed, and seed will ride the wind far beyond your current map, colonizing new deserts you have never seen. Trust that I prescheduled every gust, every germinating rainfall, every harvest festival to come. Your yes unlocked this ecosystem restoration, My yes guarantees its perpetuity. So step back into the flow with holy excitement, knowing that each wandering soul who drinks today becomes tomorrow's riverhead, and soon the global panorama will testify. Deserts do not intimidate a God who writes gardens into existence with a single drop of surrendered love. Pay close attention, for this is not a fragile sprout of optimism. It is an underground network of resilience spreading faster than criticism can travel. You are witnessing the early petals, but beneath them an entire lattice of confidence is threading through layers of your history, colonizing caverns once haunted by shame, weaving itself around every memory that once served as an entry point for despair. Imagine ancient bedrock splitting open to welcome living taproots burrowing far below rumor's reach, anchoring so firmly that words flung in malice slide off like rain on polished stone. Each new tendril curls around divine promises, absorbing nutrients of truth and pumping them upward until the canopy of your life shimmers with persistent vitality. The neighbors who once shook their heads at your dry season will soon be shading their faces beneath the lushness erupting over your borders. No argument required, only undeniable evidence. And understand, these roots are not merely personal, they are communal conduits. Every time you exhale gratitude, microthreads of hope extend beyond you, infiltrating the soil of conversations at bus stops, dinner tables, staff meetings, places where skepticism once thrived unchallenged. The effect is cumulative. A rumor wilted here, a lie starved there, until entire networks of negativity collapse for lack of fertile ground. Meanwhile, storms may still form: social media whirlwinds, workplace drama, familial tension, but when their gusts slam into this subterranean fortress, they find no leverage. Instead, the turbulence feeds aeration, allowing the root zone to breathe deeper and grow wider. Critics will wonder why their harsh analyses no longer ruffle you. It is because you are drawing life from a depth they cannot fathom. You are now a living testament that external chatter loses meaning when internal certainty is nourished by eternal wells. Hold this truth like a lamp. Every fresh blossom attracts pollinators, ideas, allies, open doors that will carry your influence beyond eyesight. For that reason, prune distractions quickly. Disengage from arguments designed only to steal the water meant for growth. Invest your attention instead on cultivating strong branches. Daily meditation on my voice, disciplined rest, wholesome collaboration. Celebrate each new leaf, but steward it wisely. Fruit is forming that will feed multitudes later. And when you hear distant thunder of gossip rolling again, smile without malice. Even storms can serve as irrigation for roots that refuse to let go. You will discover an ease in your stride, a buoyancy in your speech, because you truly know that what has taken hold beneath the surface cannot be ripped out by passing tempests. This is hope with heritage, hope with muscle, hope that will still be standing when today's critics have forgotten their own accusations. So keep watering with thanksgiving, keep weeding by forgiveness, keep mulching with scripture. The harvest awaiting you is not seasonal, it is perennial, designed to outlive rumors, outlast doubts, and outshine every gloomy forecast that once tried to dictate your future. Watch this subtle yet seismic shift unfold. Individuals who once appraised your trajectory through lenses of sarcasm now halt mid-sentence, puzzled by a composure that remains unmoved by the headlines of fear saturating their feeds. They expected you to sink under scrutiny, to lash back when your faith was caricatured. Yet you stand unruffled like a mountain mirrored in a placid lake, reflecting tranquility so pure that even the harshest critic feels the tremor of curiosity ripple through their certainty. And here is my strategy. Curiosity is the crack where revelation seeps. As they hover, inspecting your equilibrium, they begin noticing patterns: how you navigate deadlines without panic, how your laughter carries no hidden edge, how generosity flows from you without calculating ROI. These consistent anomalies tug at assumptions they considered airtight. Late at night, when the crowd's applause fades and their screens dim, they replay encounters with you in their minds. The moment you answered insult with measured grace, the time you offered resources without an agenda, the way you listened without interrupting. Each recollection nudges their internal compass toward true north, challenging stories they inherited about religion and hypocrisy. Some will test you posing loaded questions. attempting to provoke a fracture in your calm, yet every attempt merely showcases that your roots are tapped into an aquifer they have never tasted. The realization grows quietly inside them. Perhaps the Christ they dismissed as myth or moral policeman is actually the architect behind the serenity they now covet. Without fanfare, seeds sprout. Questions once buried beneath cynicism break through and reach for light. You may never hear their silent prayers. If you're real, reveal yourself, but I do, and I will answer. Soon they'll trace the source of peace back to me, the prince who authored your unflappable hope. Some will circle back under the guise of casual conversation. Others will dive headfirst into exploration, devouring scripture they previously mocked. Either way, do not shift posture. Remain steady, for steadiness is the sermon I'm preaching through you. Let kindness keep its cadence. Let integrity remain visible during invisible moments. Let empathy refuse to flinch when confronted with ridicule. Your life is now an open journal whose pages turn slowly in the wind of my spirit. Every paragraph written by grace erases a caricature of me from their mental sketchbook. And when they reach that tipping point when skepticism finally yields to possibility, be ready to walk beside them, not above them. Remember the patience I showed you, extend it. Remember the clarity I granted you, share it. Do not gloat over deconstructed arguments, celebrate emerging faith. Offer safe space for messy questions. Pour coffee, listen, pray softly. And recognize that each skeptic transformed becomes another beacon in this expanding constellation of redemption, illuminating fresh sky for other wanderers still stuck in night. So keep radiating steadiness. I will handle the rest, crafting testimonies out of skeptics until the very air around you shimmers with revision, and the stories once written against me get redrafted into songs of wonder. Behold what's happening now. Not only are their hearts softening, their ears are finally tuning into frequencies they had previously mocked or ignored. Where once my voice was drowned out by noise, distraction, or disbelief, now it begins to cut through the static with clarity and intent. I do not shout to prove myself. I whisper, because my voice carries power even at its gentlest. And to these once hardened hearts, I will begin to reveal the very blueprints they were born carrying but could never decipher. I will deliver a vague, generalized calling. I will unfold specifics, assignments coded into their bones from the womb, passions they thought were random, ideas they considered meaningless daydreams. But as I begin to speak, those fragments will align into purpose, and their confusion will begin to melt like mist under morning light. You'll see it in their eyes, the flicker of recognition when a sentence, a scripture, or even a moment of stillness suddenly resonates like a long-lost melody returning. Their inner world will begin to reorder itself. Where they once planned only for survival, they will begin imagining impact. Where they used to chase empty accolades, they will start seeking eternal substance. I will not overwhelm them with full blueprints at once. I'll release direction step by step, just as I did with you. I'll speak to them through dreams they can't shake, through conversations that seem divinely timed, through scripture that leaps off the page like fire. And they will know it isn't their imagination. It's me, initiating the same intimate journey that shifted your entire life. But this is important. Don't try to interpret their blueprint for them. What I whispered to you, I whispered specifically for your assignment. Now I'm doing the same for them, and their pattern may not look like yours. It may challenge your expectation or unfold differently than your process did. Let it. I'm not creating duplicates, I'm awakening originals. They won't always have the language to explain what they feel at first, and that's where your gentleness matters. Be a midwife, not a manager. Encourage but don't control. Advise but don't override. Celebrate when they take brave steps, and be a safe place when they stumble. And remember, some of them will carry callings that reach arenas you've never stepped into. Let it stretch you. Let it inspire you. I am not confined to pulpits, pews, or podcasts. I am flooding boardrooms, film sets, tech startups, counseling centers, school districts, political halls, and rural clinics with the presence of those who once denied me but now burn with truth because I revealed destiny directly to their spirit. You will see some rise quickly, their transformation almost shocking. Others will move slowly, layering obedience like bricks in a foundation. Do not judge one against the other. Each path is sacred, each timeline sovereign. I will finish what I start in them, just as I've done with you. And here is the hidden miracle. As they begin to walk out their blueprint, your faith will deepen too. Watching me craft wonder from those you once considered unreachable will reignite wonder inside your own heart. You'll remember again that I never waste a soul, never misplace a purpose, never abandon what I designed. So when they come to you, saying, "I feel like I'm hearing something but I'm not sure if it's real," remind them of your beginning. Remind them that the voice they now recognize was speaking all along, and that the journey is just beginning. Because that whisper they now hear, that sacred sound written specifically for them, is going to carry them into places you only prayed someone would go. And when they get there, they'll do for others what you did for them. Help them listen, help them trust, and help them run. Let this next wave begin. I've already started speaking. Stay right here and feel what's approaching, because it's not a single event, it's a convergence. Streams of purpose, which once felt disconnected and directionless, are now flowing with greater force, merging into a tide too unmistakable to be overlooked. Your past steps, some intentional, others made in weakness, are all funneling into the deep current of my orchestration. There are moments coming, and some already unfolding, where what seemed random now suddenly connects. Jobs you left, cities you passed through, people who entered briefly, all of it will be revealed as woven threads in a fabric too intricate for coincidence. And as this river grows wider and deeper, you may fear that the vastness could cause you to lose your footing or your way. But I have already planted beacons, what I call lighthouse moments, strategic illuminations meant to capture your attention, recalibrate your course, and remind you I've never once taken my eyes off you. These moments don't come from spectacle, they come with clarity. Sometimes they will arrive as a phrase from a child's mouth, sometimes as a song lyric that interrupts your thoughts with truth so piercing it stills you. Sometimes they will be in dreams you wake from trembling, or through strangers who unknowingly repeat something I spoke to you years ago. But always, they will appear exactly when your internal compass begins to question its setting. You won't need to chase these lights, they are timed to shine right when you're about to question everything. And with every flare of direction, I reaffirm what you can't always feel, that you're still in the current of my plan, and not one twist in your river has slipped my notice. Even in night seasons when emotion clouds reason and silence wraps around you like fog, those lighthouse moments remain. I place them along your horizon so that even one glimpse is enough to keep you moving forward. And when you can't see them, you will begin to sense them. A pull in your spirit. A knowing without proof. That's me training your trust to mature beyond visual confirmation. Because this journey is not about avoiding darkness, but about walking through it with unwavering orientation toward the source of light. The ocean you're headed for isn't uncertainty, it's fulfillment. And when these rivers of obedience, pain, joy, discipline, delay, and surrender finally arrive there, the sound will be unmistakable. A roar of purpose that breaks every remaining lie that said, "You missed it," or "You're too late." But there's something else. As you move closer to this convergence, you will become a lighthouse for others. Your life, illuminated by my spirit, will begin to cast beams into others' confusion. They will spot your steadiness and instinctively adjust course. You won't need a pulpit. You won't need a platform. The light will be in your presence, in your words, in your pace. Some will see it and weep, not even knowing why. Others will thank you for pointing them home, not realizing you were just following the beam I lit for you. That's how legacy multiplies, not in shouting, but in shining. So don't so dumb now. You've already come through the narrow waters. You survived the unseen currents that tried to carry you off course. You've refused to abandon the journey, even when the shore felt far. Now the flow is intensifying, the light is flashing, and the sea ahead, though wide, is where every thread of your destiny is being drawn together. Watch for the next signal. It's closer than you think. And when it comes, don't hesitate. Follow the being. It was sent for you. Feel the pivot occurring in real time. What once arrived as single sparks of direction is now crystallizing into an intricate framework, a tactical map etched across the architecture of your thoughts. I am translating abstract impressions into actionable steps, layering timelines, metrics, and milestones with a precision that outclasses every spreadsheet you have ever built. Where uncertainty once camped, rolling arguments disguised as rationality, an unmistakable order is sweeping through like dawn light, flooding an abandoned warehouse, exposing imposter thought patterns that pretended to be prudent caution but were really sabotage dressed as sense. Watch as I drag each false narrative into the open, the calculation that said you lacked credentials, the equation that concluded you were too late, the neat graph predicting inevitable failure. One by one, these counterfeits flicker, then dissolve beneath the glare of the strategy I am installing. You'll notice synapses realigning, mind, will, and emotion stop wrestling and start rowing in unison. Decisions that felt paralyzing last month now click into place with the certainty of gears finding their grooves. I am giving you the gift of decisive momentum, not the reckless surge of impulse, but the confident cadence of wisdom applied. You will draft proposals without the tremor of self-doubt, outline budgets that prophesy expansion rather than scarcity, and set boundaries with kindness that leaves no loophole for manipulation. And here's the marvel: every strategic element I unveil also doubles as armor. Vision documents become shields against distraction. Schedules forged in prayer repel chaos. Accountability structures function like sentries, sounding alarms if pride or fatigue attempts a breach. This is not merely a plan, it is a fortified ecosystem, humming with the resonance of correctness. Even your language is recalibrating. Words heavy with hesitation are shedding dead weight, replaced by statements that carry the resonance of convictions, not opinions. Conversations shift accordingly. You will sit at tables where agendas once drifted and watch them lock onto mission as soon as you speak. Colleagues who trafficked in ambiguity will either adapt to clarity or excuse themselves from the room. Ambiguity has no oxygen in this environment I'm shaping. Still, do not confuse sharp focus with rigidity. The blueprint I download into you remains responsive, able to flex when I breathe new variables into the equation. Stay sensitive to subtle course adjustments. Sometimes a single comma in my instruction changes markets, relationships, or routes. Hold strategy firmly enough to act, loosely enough to pivot. Meanwhile, take note of how peace accompanies execution. Deadlines tighten, yet anxiety loosens. Complex negotiations arise, yet your pulse steadies. This is because strategy conceived in the throne room carries its own atmosphere. It displaces panic, installs courage, lubricates collaboration. And when you implement, even adversaries will sense the authority undergirding your actions. Some will oppose, yet find no chaos to exploit. Others will surrender cynicism and request a partnership they once mocked. Receive each response with measured grace, remembering that your assignment is obedience, not conquest. The true conquest took place the moment confusion lost permission to masquerade as logic in your inner court. From this vantage, continue building. Prototype the vision. Onboard the team. Allocate the resources. Every brick laid according to this design reverberates with purpose and silences old mental turns permanently. Strategy has become your new normal, a living testament that guidance, when honored, matures into governance, and governance under my authority dismantles every counterfeit model vying for control. Keep marching. The map will keep unfolding under your feet. Feel the atmosphere around your thoughts lighten, as if a foghorn has ceased its mournful bellow, and the sun has lifted through every layer of mist. That sensation is clarity breaking ground in your inner world. It arrives not as vague brightness but as precise illumination, outlining paths and motives with high-definition accuracy, exposing subtle traps and spotlighting genuine, spirit-ordained doorways. You will notice the difference immediately. Counterfeits that once dazzled with urgent promises now appear matte and hollow, while authentic alignments hum with quiet authority you can almost hear, like a tuning fork resonating inside your chest. This discernment is my gift to you for the season of expanded influence we have entered. It is more than intuition. It is heaven's filtration system installed within your spirit, sifting every invitation, every partnership offer, every great idea until only assignments carrying the fragrance of my purpose remain. Expect testing grounds to emerge quickly. Emails will land with enticing headlines. Phone calls will come from people you admire. Social networks will sparkle with collaborations that look profitable and trend-worthy. Pause before you answer, because clarity will speak in subtleties. A flicker of unrest, a sudden heaviness behind the eyes, a scripture that springs to memory, or conversely, a deep exhale of peace that feels like cool water on a hot brow. Do not override these indicators. They are part of the internal compass I have calibrated. Say no without apology when peace is absent. Declining the wrong stage is not wasting reach. It is protecting resonance. Each no preserves bandwidth for the yes that will shift destinies. At times, even good things will require a gentle refusal because they are not your thing. That project might be holy, that leader honorable, but it is simply not your lane this year. Honor them with clarity, bless them, and step aside so their true partners can find them unhindered. Clarity is courageous enough to disappoint people in order to obey purpose. Remember, confusion once painted every option in similar shades, tricking you into thinking urgency equaled importance. That year is over. Now the Spirit highlights timing as boldly as opportunity. An offer can be perfect and still premature. Trust the calendar of heaven. If it belongs to you, it will circle back when preparation meets momentum. Meanwhile, watch how clarity quickens your creativity. Mental clutter had been hogging bandwidth, draining the color from inspired thought. With it gone, new ideas will zip through you like comets, sharp, bright, trail-bearing. Capture them. Keep a notebook within reach of your pillow. Revelation does not respect office hours. Sketch frameworks on napkins if necessary, because these flashes often arrive when your logical mind is relaxed during a walk, while stirring soup, mid-laughter with friends. Don't worry about polishing them immediately. Seed first, cultivate later. The point is to honor the flow. Clarity will also refine conversations. You'll catch yourself mid-sentence, replacing filler words with distilled truth. Meetings that once sprawled into tangents will tighten into purposeful exchange. Some associates will marvel at the new precision of your counsel, others will feel exposed by its directness. Let the response be what it is. Your responsibility is to speak unblurred truth in love, not to massage ego. Those meant to journey with you will appreciate the sharp edge because they, too, are craving substance over spectacle. Here's a safeguard: pair clarity with compassion. Visibility into motives can tempt the flesh to cynicism. Resist. When you discern manipulation, silently bless and step away. Do not broadcast exposure for sport. I see what you see, and I will handle what you leave in my hands. Lead with mercy, but lock arms with wisdom. Finally, celebrate clarity daily. Thankfulness keeps its lens polished. Begin mornings by asking, Lord, filter my agenda, and end nights by recounting moments you discerned correctly. Even the tiny victories: choosing water over gossip, choosing silence over self-promotion, choosing rest over hustle. These acknowledgments reinforce neural pathways I'm carving, turning occasional clarity into consistent culture. Soon, you will look back in awe at how many snares you sidestepped, snares you never even paused long enough to notice. That is the quiet power of discernment in full stride, walking straight through minefields as if they were meadows, because every step is lit by the lamp of my unfailing insight. Keep that lamp trimmed with obedience, and confusion will never reclaim territory in your mind. Feel the gathering right now, subtle yet undeniable, as I summon individuals calibrated to the cadence of your newfound clarity, companions whose faithfulness is woven from threads stronger than convenience, brighter than ambition. These are not transient acquaintances attracted by spotlight or gain. They are covenant keepers, handpicked through a vetting process unseen by human eyes. Long before your timelines intersected, I observed their responses in hidden trials, the mercy they extended when no applause followed, the integrity they upheld when shortcuts glimmered, the perseverance they chose when exit doors stood wide. Having passed those quiet examinations, they are now dispatched to stand shoulder to shoulder with you, forging a living shield that adapts to threat without becoming a cage. Feel the relief of that arrangement. No more performing to maintain fragile alliances. No more tiptoeing to appease egos that fracture under truth. In this circle, the authenticity breathes freely. When you advance into territories requiring courage, their intercession will flank your steps like silent armor. When critique attempts to graze your heart, their words will absorb the sting, redirecting you to perspective soaked in grace. Yet note the balance. They will not smother you with protection that dilutes responsibility. Instead, they elevate you by asking incisive questions, celebrating progress while illuminating blind spots you cannot view alone. Your presence will refine, not restrain. Notice how synergy multiplies gifts and you activate dormant capacities in them, and vice versa, until collective strength eclipses what any member could marshal individually. I have arranged it so talents interlock. A strategist pairs with a dreamer, a healer links with a builder, a prophet harmonizes with an administrator. No gift competes, each completes. Expect introductions to surface organically. A common thread becomes a brainstorming session. A hallway greeting unfolds into prayer at midnight. A referral morphs into lifelong partnership. Do not dismiss small beginnings. Oak-level loyalty often sprouts from acorn-size encounters. Learn to recognize the indicators. Conversation that accelerates revelation. Silence that feels safe rather than awkward. Correction delivered with tenderness instead of superiority. Where you sense that blend, linger. Invest. Break bread. Share stories still raw. These moments are covenant seeds. Water them. But also heed the boundaries I set. Covenants are gardens, not jungles. Pruning maintains health. I will nudge you when responsibilities must be clarified, when rhythms of rest are required, when personal calling necessitates temporary solitude. True allies honor those cues instead of guilting you for them. Occasionally, I will test this bond through unexpected tension, miscommunication, differing methods, logistical strain. That is by design. Unshaken loyalty is tempered in friction, not forged in perpetual agreement. Watch how they behave in conflict. Do they seek mutual understanding or personal victory? Do they guard your dignity while debating ideas? Do they speak of you the same way in absent rooms? Those patterns reveal depth. When loyalty holds under heat, welds tighten, ensuring the circle can flex under larger assignments. Simultaneously, I will reassign certain voices from your previous season's good people who cannot embark upon the grade of altitude ahead. Release them without resentment. Sentimentality must not override stewardship. Some friendships flourish best at a specific elevation. Pushing them beyond that environment warps both parties. Bless them and continue. Your heart is roomy enough for past gratitude and future collaboration. My kingdom is expansive, and pathways cross again in surprising junctures. Celebrate the fruit of the circle. Innovation birthed in late-night whiteboard sessions, relief surging through families reached by your synchronized efforts, cultural strongholds cracking because unified obedience resonates louder than solitary brilliance. I will weave testimonies from these alliances that textbooks cannot catalog, moments where a single whispered prayer in one time zone averts catastrophe for a teammate continents away, instances where supplies appear precisely when combined resources seemed inadequate. Every story echoes the same refrain: Lord, you orchestrated what we could never script. Finally, remember, identity anchors loyalty. Your alliance does not hinge on perpetual agreement, but on mutual allegiance to me. Keep that vertical tether taut and the horizontal bonds remain resilient. Meet often before my presence. Laugh hard. Repent quickly. Dream boldly. Give freely. As you do, the circle becomes more than a defense mechanism. It transforms into a mobile embassy of heaven's culture, advancing across borders still aching for liberation. Stand in that truth. Link arms without fear, and watch entire battlegrounds tilt toward victory simply because unity seasoned by discernment walked onto the field. Let your spirit pay attention now, because something extraordinary is erupting within the safety of this trusted circle I've surrounded you with. Innovation is being reignited. but not as a gentle flame. It's roaring like a furnace in full power, heating every forgotten concept, every sketchbook draft, every backburner vision you once deemed too risky or not the right time. The atmosphere has shifted. Where fear once dictated whether your ideas lived or died, freedom now governs. And in this liberty, invention is not only welcomed, it is required. I am breathing upon that dormant creativity and transforming it into activated purpose, not for amusement but for impact. You no longer have to second-guess whether your voice belongs at the table. I've already carved the space for it, and now I'm handing you the chisel. What once felt like scattered thoughts are now snapping into blueprints, as if divine architecture was always embedded in your mind, just waiting for the conditions to unlock it. And it's not just content I'm awakening its formats, styles, mediums, methods. I'm calling forth entire ecosystems of expression. That screenplay. Yes. That prototype. Absolutely. That curriculum. The nonprofit model. The song you stopped singing halfway through because the memory behind it stunned too much. Bring them back. This time, you're not creating from isolation or insecurity. You're creating in the presence of confidence, accountability, and holy fire. Your mind will feel faster. Ideas will come mid-conversation, mid-worship, even mid-lament. Capture them. Write them down. Don't edit before documenting. Don't analyze their worth before honoring their arrival. And here's the miracle. I'm not only resurrecting ideas, I'm redeeming the meaning of failure. What you once deemed as wasted efforts, as proofs that you weren't made for this, are now raw materials in my hands. The feedback you received, the rejection you felt, the silence after you launched something with trembling faith, I'm folding it all into the recalibration. You needed those scars to learn the weight and worth of your gifting. And now, instead of that weight crushing you, it will stabilize what I build through you. This round of creativity isn't about vanity or validation. It's about stewardship. And when creativity becomes stewardship, it shifts from self-expression to kingdom influence. But hear this with precision. These ideas are not meant to stay in journals or vision boards. They are weapons. They are tools. They are solutions wrapped in imagination, destined to pierce through stagnancy in education, entertainment, justice, economics, and more. I have no intention of keeping you confined to religious spaces. I'm commissioning you into industries. The sound you release may not echo in sanctuaries, but it will shift atmospheres in studio sets, boardrooms, classrooms, and community halls. And those who once ignored your presence will now seek out your counsel, not because you marketed louder, but because the power behind what you carry cannot be ignored. You are not the only one. The people around you, your circle, is also being lit with the same fire. One person's breakthrough becomes another's inspiration. As they witness you rise, it gives them permission to resurrect their own shelved brilliance. Collaboration will be effortless because your agendas will be aligned by purpose, not competition. You'll pour into each other's work without fear of credit or control. One's lyrics will inspire another's visuals. One's research will birth another's invention. One's poem will unlock someone else's business model. This is creative covenant, and it is a foretaste of heaven's order manifesting on earth. So let it burn. Let the forge roar. Let the heat of revival melt away every old limitation that told you your ideas didn't matter. You are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly on time because I am the one lighting the match. What you once buried out of fear is now rising like steel, refined, strong, purposeful. And it will not only make noise, it will make history. Pay attention to what's happening around you. It's more than a personal revival. It's a cultural recalibration. The ideas now rising from the furnace of your healing are not just expressions of individual calling, they are catalysts, meant to pierce through societal strongholds and soften structures previously resistant to kindness, truth, and grace. The platforms that once echoed with cynicism will begin to absorb the tone of compassion simply because you dared to release what I embedded in you. Watch as media, education, fashion, technology, and entertainment, those engines that drive public imagination, begin to pivot. Not with sudden fanfare, but with quiet shifts in tone, values, and emphasis as my spirit begins to permeate through what you release. It may start with a phrase that goes viral for reasons no algorithm can explain. A character in a story that awakens empathy in millions who never set foot in a sanctuary. A business model that prioritizes people over profit, sparking replication across cities. A design that radiates dignity and draws attention not for its trend, but for its integrity. These are not anomalies, they are signals that culture is responding to a frequency it didn't know it craved. The frequency of my heart. And you are a transmitter. Expect friction at first. Not everyone will understand why your work feels different. Some may label it idealistic, too soft, or too spiritual. Do not shrink in those moments. Don't over-explain. Let your consistency do the talking. Let the results testify. Let the fruit emerge. Because soon, even skeptics will be impacted by the slow saturation of redemption into spaces they thought were impenetrable. They may not use religious language to describe it, but their softened tone, their reimagined priorities, their shifted decisions will all bear witness to what's happening beneath the surface. Love is gaining ground. And I'm doing it through the voices who once felt too broken to even speak. Don't aim for applause. Applause fades. Aim for impact. Impact ripples beyond what you can see. You may never know the full effect of a lyric you wrote, a photograph you captured, a children's book you quietly published, a startup you launched, or a podcast you almost didn't record. But I do. I trace the echo of each act of obedience, each offering of creativity purified in surrender, and I weave it into a much larger narrative, one where cultural climates change not through coercion, but through saturation. Understand this clearly. I am not asking you to mimic the world's patterns and sprinkle my name on top. I'm asking you to build something entirely different. Something holy. Something that reflects the character of heaven, where justice is not a slogan, but a rhythm, where beauty is not exploited, but honored, where truth is not weaponized, but freed to heal. You will not need to shout to be heard. Purity will amplify your voice. Simplicity will cut through noise. Excellence will open doors ego never could. I will send favor in unexpected places. Gatekeepers who have never made space for faith will feel compelled to give your work a platform without understanding why. I will give you language that disarms resistance, language soaked in mercy, firm in truth, wise in tone. Your work will travel farther than your name. It will slip through borders, leap over resistance, and settle into the hands of decision-makers you've never met. They won't see you coming, but they'll know something has arrived. This is not about infiltrating culture to dominate it. It's about healing what's been fractured. I'm not sending you in as a conqueror, I'm sending you in as a reconciler, a restorer, a voice of the future whose sound begins with surrender. So go boldly, not with arrogance, but with sacred assurance. What you carry can shift the climate of an entire generation. Release it. Stay faithful. And let compassion find its seat at the table again through you. Now open your heart even wider, because what I'm about to pour through you isn't merely kindness, it's restorative compassion with the strength of a rescue mission. I am stretching your reach far beyond your current circle, so that the tenderness I've cultivated within you becomes a refuge for the unheard, the unseen, and the undone. You will begin to notice people gravitating toward you not because they understand you fully, but because they feel safe in your presence. That safety is no accident. It's what happens when healing becomes tangible, when peace radiates from someone who has been carried through fire and rain without losing their softness. There are many right now suffocating under secrets they swore they would never reveal. Secrets rooted in abuse, in betrayal, in shame, in guilt. They walk with smiles but sleep with sobs. They lead teams while bleeding internally. They quote hope while doubting if it applies to them. These are the ones I am directing toward your voice, your work, your presence. Not so that you fix them, but so you can carry a warmth that melts their fear long enough for them to come into my light. You are not the healer I am, but your surrendered life will serve as the bridge between their silence and my sanctuary. And this is where the net forms. Compassion becomes your cast, it goes out quietly, without force, without fanfare. You won't always notice when it catches someone. A short message you send, a brief eye contact across a busy hallway, a gentle response to a harsh comment. These are the threads of the net. And as you remain faithful to extending grace, the net expands. One by one, the hidden begin to surface. They emerge slowly at first, blinking in the brightness of acceptance they thought they'd never receive. And when they confess the weight they've been dragging, do not flinch. Do not look surprised. Listen. Hold space. Stay still. Your calmness becomes evidence that I do not recoil from the very stories they believe made them disqualified. In this light, shame does not get to keep its grip, because shame thrives in secrecy. But when compassion meets confession, shame loses its scaffolding. You'll see it happen. Shoulders relax, words tumble out in floods, tears cleanse like a second baptism. You won't need to preach in those moments. You'll just need to reflect the truth that they are still worthy of belonging, and that quiet assurance will begin to untie knots that years of hiding created. The chains of unworthiness, of fear of being found out, of rehearsed religious language that never matched internal pain, those chains will start to fall. As they do, I will begin pouring identity into the hollow places where secrecy once lived, and I will use you as a witness to that transformation. You will watch someone who once cowered in corners begin to lead others into liberty. You'll hear voices that once trembled with fear begin to echo with confidence. Don't rush this process. It's sacred. Be patient with their trembling steps. Remember how long it took for you to believe you were free. And as the net grows, it will catch more than you imagined. Those once caught will start casting nets of their own. It will become multiplication, a movement of mercy. Where once shame was passed like inheritance, now healing will spread like wildfire. You'll hear testimonies of marriages restored, addictions broken, lies unlearned, and the origin will trace back to something as small as your yes to compassion. You may feel unqualified to carry this kind of influence, but I remind you, it is not yours to control. You are the vessel. I am the stream. Stay close to me. Let me refill you often. Let me renew your strength when stories feel too heavy. I will never let you burn out on the burden of others. I will keep you grounded in joy while you reach into grief. And this, child, is how the world begins to shift, not through noise but through nets of compassion cast in silence, strength, and spirit. Keep casting. I'm not finished gathering. Not yet. Hear it now, like waterfalls gathering volume with every heartbeat, the unmistakable thunder of unrestrained gladness breaking loose inside your chest. This is no polite chuckle slipping through cautiously parted lips. It is a full-throated river of delight bursting from reservoirs long dammed by condemnation. Yesterday, the voice of accusation clanged in your mind like rusted iron, rehearsing every misstep and magnifying every flaw. But I have severed that rusty chain, and in its place I have installed wind chimes of grace, each strike releasing melody instead of shame. Listen closely. The percussion you're hearing is the echo of heaven applauding your freedom, a roar that drowns out even the faintest whisper of former ridicule. And this joy is not fragile optimism. It is muscular, resilient, capable of leaping walls cynicism erected and of bending bars regret once forged. Feel it move through your bloodstream, oxygenating ambitions you had starved, igniting colors and experiences that used to feel grayscale. Conversations brighten because you are no longer scanning for judgment. Decisions lighten because you are no longer weighted by what if. Even mundane tasks, folding laundry, answering emails, fueling the car, glow with the same electricity that turned water into wine. Watch how people around you react. Genuine joy is contagious in the best epidemic sense. A spontaneous grin on your commute releases relief in a stranger who thought no one noticed their exhaustion. A laugh that rolls out during a staff meeting slices tension like sunrise cuts fog, allowing creative solutions to rise where stalemates had lingered. Friends accustomed to your guarded smile will double take at the sparkle in your eyes, then find themselves smiling back before they understand why. Children, attuned to authenticity, will gravitate toward you like birds to an open palm, sensing safety in a world where many adults have forgotten how to rejoice. This cascading joy will splash into forgotten crevices of community-assisted living corridors, clinic waiting rooms, late-night diners seeping under doors that anxiety kept sealed. Because joy, when unleashed, is not shy. It is a diplomat of hope negotiating peace treaties between wounded hearts. Understand, however, that cascading joy is not careless. It is strategic. I am weaponizing delight against despair. Every time you laugh freely, you nullify a lie that once held jurisdiction over your mind. Every joke you share becomes a protest song against oppression. Every dance step in the kitchen prophesies that heaviness has an expiration date. Yet, guard the source. Joy is sustained not by circumstance but by communion. Stay tethered to me, the fountain whose pressure never weakens, and you'll find rejoicing even when skies darken. On difficult days, recall victories big and small as flint for the fire. Meditate on promises etched into your spirit. Let them reverberate like bass lines beneath the treble of unpredictable news cycles. There will be those who misunderstand, who equate exuberance with denial or naivete. Love them anyway. Your joy is not ignorance of suffering. It is proof that suffering lacks the final word. Your smile is not a refusal to acknowledge pain. It is a declaration that pain will not imprison perception. And when challenges inevitably arise, let laughter partner with perseverance, creating a harmony where grit and gladness compose the soundtrack of overcoming. Finally, steward joy by sharing it intentionally. Host dinners where stories of triumph overwhelm gossip. Open studios where art fashioned from celebration replaces cynicism on public walls. Write messages that drip with encouragement, even in comment sections often polluted with contempt. Volunteer where discouragement festers and infuse the atmosphere with levity that reminds weary souls they are still allowed to dream. In doing so, you become an architect of environments where despair cannot breathe. So let the cascade continue through dawn's quiet, through noon's rush, through midnight's stillness. Laugh until your ribs ache and your tears become prisms catching light. Sing off-key if you must, but sing loudly, because the anthem of reclaimed joy reverberates farther than pristine silence ever could. And know that every ripple of your rejoicing travels back to the throne as an offering fragrant and unstoppable, prompting me to pour yet more gladness down the mountainside of my mercy, an endless echo of grace resounding from your heart to the horizons you have yet to explore. Joy's flood has now seeped into the soil of your imagination, turning every dormant idea into seed ready to germinate the moment your breath brushes it with expectancy. And because anticipation now drips from your tongue like morning dew, the act of speaking will double as sowing, each sentence a furrow, each declaration a packet of embryonic potential bursting open in midair. You will notice it first during routine moments. A stray thought voiced over coffee morphs into a viable blueprint before the mug cools. A musing shared in a hallway conversation reorganizes itself into a collaborative initiative by lunchtime. Vision is no longer limited to late-night brainstorming or journal pages guarded by privacy. It is becoming kinetic, unfolding contemporaneously with articulation, proof that inspiration responds to atmosphere the same way seeds respond to fertile ground. You will experience a creative synesthesia, ideas emerging in color, sound, and texture simultaneously, because I am enlivening every sensory channel so revelation cannot be missed. Meetings that once felt like trudging through tar will now surge with momentum as colleagues sense the vibrancy surrounding you and instinctively lean in, caught up in the propulsion of purpose without fully comprehending why their cynicism evaporates in your vicinity. Do not second-guess the rapidity of this growth. Acceleration is integral to this season. Just as a time-lapse camera reveals a flower opening within seconds, you will watch opportunities unfurl before the final syllable of your proposal lands on the table. Yet remember, sprouting is not the finish line, it is the commencement of stewardship. Vision must be tended, pruned, and occasionally thinned so overcrowding does not choke individual shoots. Keep notes, establish timelines, assign responsibilities swiftly, for momentum thrives on order. I will send strategic partners whose expertise complements your expanding field, Treat their counsel as irrigation systems directing the flow rather than barriers restricting creativity. Simultaneously, guard against weeds of distraction, those side projects masquerading as urgency but siphoning nutrients from the primary harvest. Discern them by their fruitlessness. They demand energy without advancing mission. Yank them early, and joy will continue enriching the terrain instead of being absorbed by vanity ventures. As dreams materialize visibly, apps launching, sums charting, legislation drafted in justice's favor, pause to give thanks, for gratitude is the crop rotation that renews soil and prevents depletion. Where thanks abounds, vision maintains diversity, birthing solutions in sectors you never studied, clean water innovations, trauma-informed art therapy, ethical finance structures. You will marvel at how conversations once confined to aspiration now pivot seamlessly to implementation, how sketches evolve into patents, how bullet point prayers transform into blueprints stamped approved. And because this process unfolds publicly, observers will witness concept become construct almost instantly, compelling them to interrogate their own resignation. Many will approach you privately, asking how to migrate from stagnation to flow. Share freely the principle. Delight nutrients destiny. Teach them that creativity is not the privilege of a chosen few but the inheritance of any heart willing to host joy unashamed. Invite them into brainstorming spaces saturated with celebration, where laughter serves as a catalyst for lateral thinking, and watch their imaginations ignite like dry tinder under a spark. This is multiplication without manipulation, expansion without exploitation, and it will continue as long as you refuse to hoard credit and instead funnel glory upward. Finally, anchor this truth deep. You are dreaming with eyes open not to escape reality, but to reconstruct it. Each possibility sprouting at the vibration of your voice is a living reminder that when joy and purpose collate, the future ceases to be a distant concept and becomes a garden blooming in the present tense, visible, fragrant, nourishing, and utterly unstoppable. Consider the humbling magnitude of this truth. The phrases leaving your mouth today, those radiant articulations birthed from healed imagination, are not evaporating into atmosphere. They are descending into time soil, each syllable carrying dormant ecosystems that will mature long after your own timeline closes. Picture a tiny acorn cradling the blueprint of a colossal oak, yet multiply that by orchards, by canopies stretching over continents, by root systems intertwining beneath cities not yet constructed. Whenever you release a possibility statement, we can redesign education with empathy. Clean energy should be accessible to the poorest villages. No survivor will walk recovery alone. I embed within that utterance cellular codes of innovation, compassion, and resilience, waiting suitable climates in forthcoming decades. Entire communities will one day trace their stability back to a conversation you almost whispered in passing, and children unborn right now will climb metaphorical branches of concepts you plant while sipping coffee or pacing a late-night hallway. Your role is to keep scattering these prophetic seeds with intentionality, trusting germination to the rhythms I have scheduled beyond your direct oversight. Resist the temptation to micromanage results or dig up sprouts prematurely to gauge progress. Germination is sacred secrecy. Instead, tend the planting process. Speak hope without sarcasm. Declare solutions without hedging. Bless landscapes you may never walk. A single boldly voiced idea can migrate across oceans of culture via translations, citations, podcasts, and policy drafts, lodging itself inside decision-makers who will never learn your name yet will feel compelled to nurture the seed because it resonates with anointing wrapped around your original breath. Meanwhile, I assign pollinators, mentors, journalists, data scientists, even chance travelers who carry fragments of your declarations like bees laden with pollen, unintentionally cross-fertilizing initiatives in distant sectors. One day an agricultural reformer in South America will implement a soil regeneration protocol that echoes a climate justice vision you shared in a workshop. A playwright in East Africa will craft a narrative empowering survivors because she heard your testimony through a secondary source. Legislators in the Arctic Circle will embed restorative principles into law after stumbling upon an article quoting your early research. Such ripple effects amass until what began as a solitary seedling becomes a biome, moderating temperatures of discourse, anchoring endangered values, hosting biodiversity of creativity. And within those expanding forests, unsheltered souls will find shade against corporate greed. Displaced hearts will nest in branches of restored dignity. Entire species of thought once en route to extinction will flourish beneath your prophetic canopy. Do not underestimate the quiet velocity of words propelled by faith. They travel faster than light through spiritual dimensions, bending timelines, arriving precisely when a leader stands at crossroads, delivering clarity in the form of remembered phrase or half-heard interview. Therefore harness language with reverence, prune cynicism, uproot fatalism, cultivate diction that carries water to dry terrains of imagination. Keep a ledger of possibilities spoken, not to boast, but to steward accountability. Revisit it during seasons of fatigue, letting record of seeds sown remind you that unseen forests are still forming. Celebrate small sprouts, a pilot program launched, a scholarship funded as scouts of greater arboreal emergence. And when critics demand immediate harvest, smile gently. They judge by grocery lists, not by generational orchards. Your vindication will unfold in grandchildren reciting poetry written under leaves you planted, in economies thriving because someone decades earlier believed equitable business was plausible, in ecosystems reviving because a fledgling innovator nursed by your affirmation pursued regenerative science. That is the grandeur encoded in every seed of possibility you dare voice. So keep speaking with audacious tenderness. Scatter verbal acorns over deserts of doubt. My winds will carry them where tillers wait, and your legacy will echo through groves of gratitude swaying in breezes your lungs once exhaled. Amen.